Hey everyone. So, if you're building products with AI, you know it can feel like the rules are changing every single day. What you really need is a solid mental model for how this tech actually works. Not the super technical version, but the one that helps you ship amazing products and, avoid total disaster. All right, let's get into it.
So let's start with the biggest question. If you could only know one thing about large language models or LLMs, what should it be? Well, it all boils down to one single core concept. And here it is. The model is not thinking, it's not reasoning, it doesn't understand things the way we do. At its heart, it's just an incredibly sophisticated autocomplete. It's predicting the most statistically likely next word or token over and over and over again. Now, why does this matter so much for you as a product leader? Well, because the model is just pattern matching, it means it's going to fail in some very predictable ways. And if you truly get this one distinction, you'll be able to anticipate and design around almost every single problem you're going to run into. It's that important. Okay, so let's dig into those flaws. And I want you to think of these less as bugs and more as the built-in limitations of the technology today. They're the rules of the game, and you have to know them before you can build a winning product.
All right, first up, the big one, hallucination. This is when the model just makes stuff up. And the crazy part is, it does it with complete confidence. It sounds totally plausible, but it's just wrong. Remember Google's first public demo for its Bard AI? A single hallucinated fact about a telescope ended up wiping about $100 billion off its market cap. Yeah, the stakes are very, very real.
And this chart really shows you the scale of the issue. I mean, look, the models are getting better, for sure. But even the top-of-the-line models like GPT-4o are still getting it wrong a few percent of the time. Now, 3% might sound small, but if your product has millions of users, that's thousands of errors hitting your customers every single day.
So how on earth do you deal with this? Well, you have to build guardrails. First, you can ground the model's answers in data you know is true, using a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. You should also be adding source citations right into the UI so your users can check the facts for themselves. And for anything really important, you need a human in the loop. Basically, you have to design for the inevitable failure.
Okay, next problem, the knowledge cutoff. You have to remember that these giant models are trained on a dataset that's a snapshot in time. Once their training is done, they're essentially frozen. They have no clue what happened in the world yesterday, last week, or even this morning.
And this table really drives that point home. Even the newest, shiniest models are already months out of date. Now, if your product is, say, a creative writing assistant, maybe that doesn't matter. But if you're building a news summarizer or a chatbot that needs to know about your company's latest pricing, this is a massive deal breaker.
Then you've got what I like to call the goldfish problem. Out of the box, an AI has no memory. Every single conversation you have with it is the first conversation. It's like a goldfish that resets every time it swims around the bowl. It won't remember what you talked about 5 minutes ago unless you, the product person, specifically design and build a memory system for it.
Think of this table as your quick PM cheat sheet. It sums up the biggest issues we've hit on, plus a few others, like reasoning gaps or the fact that models can't access the real world. But look at the right-hand column. For every limitation, there's a primary mitigation strategy. For reasoning, for instance, you might use a prompt technique called chain of thought, or code. This is your playbook.
Okay, so let's take that playbook and run with it. Because here's the cool part. Every one of these limitations is actually an opportunity. It's a chance for you to build an intelligent layer on top of the base model that creates real value.
This is probably the best analogy I found. Think of an LLM like the basic iOS or Android on your phone. Yeah, it's powerful, but it's not where the magic happens, right? The real value is in the apps, the data, the integrations that are built on top of that OS. That's your job as a product leader. And you can see this exact idea in action with real products. You've got Perplexity, which fights hallucinations by grounding every single answer in web sources with citations. You've got Gemini, which solves the knowledge cutoff by plugging directly into Google search. And then there's Expedia, which gives its AI the ability to actually book flights by letting it use tools. Each enhancement is a direct solution to a core model flaw. So we know how to build around the model's flaws. But which models should we choose in the first place? And this isn't just some engineering detail. This is a fundamental product strategy decision you have to make. And really, it all comes down to this classic trade-off triangle. You've got quality, cost, and speed, or latency. And the rule is simple. You can pick any two. You want something high quality and super fast? It's going to be expensive. Want it cheap and high quality? Well, get ready to wait because it's going to be slow. Your specific product needs will tell you which two corners of this triangle are non-negotiable.
So here's a quick look at the major players. You can see how they stack up. GPT-4o is a fantastic all-arounder, but if your product is all about analyzing huge documents, you gotta look at Gemini 1.5 Pro and its insane 1 million token context window. See? It always comes back to your specific use case.
And that leads us perfectly into our last major strategic decision. How are you actually going to use this tech? Do you just use a simple API, or do you need to go way, way deeper?
You should think about this as a spectrum. On one end, you can use an API. You could be up and running in a few days. On the absolute other end, you could train a foundation model from scratch, which will take you years and hundreds of millions of dollars. Just look at how the cost and the complexity absolutely explode as you move from left to right.
So here's the rule of thumb for pretty much everyone listening. Start by buying. Just use an API. It is, by a huge margin, the fastest and cheapest way to find out if customers actually care about what you're building. Do not even think about fine-tuning or self-hosting until you have rock-solid product-market fit.
So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. We're all conditioned to chase the newest, most powerful, highest quality model. But what if a slightly worse model, one that's 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper, could actually create a better user experience, something more responsive, more accessible, more immediate? Because at the end of the day, the best technology doesn't always make the best product.